Jim Norton is with us, Realty Pro 100. He's probably one of the only people that I know that was here when they first started doing CPI. So we're going to get the information from him. Not on the radio show. I wasn't around then. He was.
I got my first one from Alexander Hamilton.
Yeah. Well, your comrade here, he actually was helping Abraham Lincoln recently. So
he was. We both.
He goes back to that date
at the time. Yeah,
and it's really fun because he's not here, so we can harass him.
Oh, we can.
So you were probably in your third or fourth decade of real estate back in the last time when we saw inflation like this in the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
Was that your third decade of real estate?
No, actually, 80s were my pretty much my first.
Your first?
Yeah, I was like some of these. I came out of college, and with hopes, dreams, and everything in your eyes, and then right into a recession. And then,
wasn't that special?
Yeah, then
that's kind of where we are right now.
Right into another recession, and now not every recession has affected real estate either, though. 2001, the tech bubble burst. Real estate was doing great.
Okay,
that didn't overflow. Generally, real estate and mortgages are tied more strongly. So, like in
they actually go in opposite directions, though, usually.
Well, no, what
real
I'm
estate
saying
up
is,
and mortgage rates down.
Is cause and effect.
Oh, okay.
Let's go the other way. Not.
Oh.
I hear what you're saying, but for cause and effect, I mean, when the S&L crisis hit, that
was in the 80s, right?
Yeah, real estate was riding high, and then the S&Ls collapsed. And for everybody that doesn't understand this, there used to be banks and there used to be savings and loans. I think they've somewhat. Would it be reasonable to say they've replaced it with something like Rocket Mortgage, private lending to some degree?
Yeah, a little bit, but those maybe SoFi would be more likely. Rocket Mortgage because they're strictly into the mortgage side, but the S&Ls, they did some bonds, they did some business. I think the S&L really is morphed more into what I would consider the community banks.
Possibly,
they're crashing right now too. Sorry,
possibly rolled into the community banks. Yeah, which is I'm not sure that the community bank. Some people are skeptical that that's deeper than it is. I don't know if it's as deep as it is. You look at SVP and what was the last one?
First
Republic. There was so many bad business decisions going on that there wasn't much. But anyways,
the biggest problem with that, and this is not being reported unless you are a listener to Ron Siegel Radio, is that the amount of assets that those three banks had, or four banks that have gone under had, is double the amount of assets that 511 banks had that collapsed during the mortgage meltdown in 2010.
True, but they also had. Did SVP have Apple? I mean, who were their clients? I mean, you look at the client list, and SVP being in Silicon Valley, they had more cash than because I mean, Apple's sitting on what? They still have a $700-800 billion offshore.
Well, the issue with Apple, though, Apple had $100 million on deposit with them.
Right.
But the issue was they don't keep it in cash. Right. So what they did is they put that money into mortgage-backed securities or something along those lines.
Well, they went into bonds.
And the mortgage bonds.
Yeah, the mortgage bonds.
Mortgage bonds.
Okay.
And they went into treasuries. And remember, I tell you all the time, when the interest rate goes up, or what they call the yield goes up, the value of the bond goes down because the bond has a fixed rate of interest. So if you're in a bond that has a 2% coupon or a 2.5% coupon, and the market is, say, 6% or 5.5% where we're at right now, let me look at what coupon we're working mostly off of. I should be able to find it here pretty quick. But say we're working off of a 5% coupon or a 5.5% coupon. Well, if the coupon has gone up that much, the value of the bond has dropped dramatically. So when somebody says, I want to pull my money out, Apple says, I want to pull $100 million out. Well, the bank has to cash in $200 million worth of bonds to get that money back. Yeah. Right now, the mortgage-backed securities, we run a lot of different bonds, but for the most part, we're working off a 5.5% coupon on the bonds.
No.
So if they're holding a bunch of 2s and 2.5s, they don't have to call that a loss because of Dodd-Frank. They don't have to market
Right.
to market. Right? Could you imagine that, Jim? I mean, you've been a business, you've been a real estate developer, right? And if you have a piece of land and you build on it and you put all your money into it, and it's worth $500,000, and the market tanks as it did in 2009, and now it's worth 400,000. But you say, "Well, I'm just going to hold it until the market goes back up."
There were a lot of people who thought they could do that.
Right?
Yeah,
couldn't get away with it
until the bank called them and said, we need
we need our money back.
We need our payments.
Right.
Yeah, that's the
and that's the same thing that's happened right
Right.
now with the community banks. Is people are calling and saying, I want to take my money out because what was the bank paying?
right. But
Right
I don't
on their
think my
savings.
my point is I don't think every regional bank had their business strategy. I mean, these guys were
There's
were-
only 186 of them on the banana peel right now.
there. Is
Yeah.
that what you're saying?
There's 6
Okay.
more. When you look at the ETF for community banks, that's actually gone down 40% in the last couple of weeks. Continue our conversation.
It would make for a good fall housing market. I mean, you get the mortgage rate down to 5.5 or around the 5.5 area. That's going to bring a lot of people back into the market. But
So let's talk about
you still
this,
have the
Jim.
problem of inventory, no matter what you do.
No, well, that's a big problem, and we did see a little bit of an increase in inventory this week. But what my question would be, if you have a crystal ball, Jim,
All right.
the individuals don't need that have a sub 4% mortgage. They have no need to sell right now, right? I shouldn't say that. If they have no need, they don't sell right now.
Right.
If they have a need, if they have the diamonds, diapers, divorce,
Right.
default, or death, or whatever, right? They might then those properties may come on the market.
Right.
Right. That's a simple one.
Job transfer,
Job
job offer.
So it's
who
something
knows?
that's
Yeah.
forced.
Something that right.
There's got to be a catalyst.
The area of the market that is I don't see moving is the young family. They have one child, another one on the way, and they're saying, we're in a townhome or a condo. We need to get a single family and more room. And they want to move up to something, change their lifestyle a little bit. That market is stagnant because they're like, well, if we do it, it's going to be double the interest rate plus the increased money. Maybe now is not the time to do something. So they're hesitant to move.
Okay, I want to come back to that. But what I want to get to here is at 6.5%, 7%, the person that does not have a catalyst doesn't move.
Right.
At 6%, do you think they do? 5.5%, 5%?
If you're, again, catalyst is a big word in this.
Well, we're
formula.
looking at for this a person that doesn't have the catalyst.
Because if you're carrying, let's say you bought 3 years ago, you haven't paid down too far. You've got equity in the home.
You have about 40% equity.
Right.
So.
It's going to be a very difficult thing at 6.5%, but you're going to make that move for a reason. But if you're at a 20-year-old homeowner, you're still back. Now you're dealing with cash. You're doing a 1031 exchange, or you're depends on where you're at. You're dealing all in cash, so you're not paying the 6.5%.
But at what point does that person come back into the market? The want to seller come back. Where do you think? I mean, do you think it's going to be at 5.5 or 5%?
I think at 5.5 we're going to be a lot closer. I mean, remember.
So that's going to bring us more inventory.
I can't remember the numbers exactly, but the majority of loans were in the 4% range,
below 4,
and then it was a smaller minority that was in the below 3.
Right.
So they have a longer way to stretch. But so let's just assume that everybody's 4. That's 1.5, 1.5 points to get to 5.5. Let's just say that's a lot closer. That's in terms of a payment.
Easier to stomach.
The inflation problem is the same. Is causing the other side of the coin is they're stretched. I mean, what are we at? Let's use eggs. Eggs is the great topic, but eggs were what $5 for the big dozen at Costco, or the big 5 dozen.
Right.
They're now $14 or something like that. They're
Really?
coming down a little.
Ooh, I haven't paid that much.
What did you pay?
I think that they were
I
still
saw them
pretty.
at 14, and I can't remember what the last
You must
time
get
I
the
bought
fancy
one.
ones. I don't know. I
No, I
just.
just get the 5 dozen, big 5 dozen.
Oh,
eggs
okay.
and-
Okay. You're looking at a different one. So I don't
yeah,
know. I don't know that answer because
You
I
go
look
in the
at the.
cold. You go in the cold
use the
refrigerator,
18 pack.
Costco or Sam's, and you get the big 5 dozen.
I get the 18 pack. So
Okay, you get the 18 packs. So it's a little it makes it look like it's cheaper.
right.
Yeah. But even milk is up. So the staples are up. So you're trying to feed your family. Everything is more expensive. It cuts into what you're thinking is going to be on that mortgage payment.
So let's
And-
here. So I'm going to throw some numbers at you, Jim, because if you've got that $750,000 property
Okay.
or $750,000 loan, and you've paid on it a little bit, maybe that loan is down to 725, and you had a 4% rate, and now you go to a 5.5% rate.
Okay. What'd you come up with?
It's about a $535 a month extra.
Yeah, it could be without inflation. It could be. It wouldn't probably be absorbable. But if you're a commuter or if you've got 2 or 3 kids, the food and the fuel are going to offset that a lot.
So what I'm going to say then is take that $25,000 in equity, and you might be able to buy down the interest rate down into the 4s.
You could,
on that acquisition
or
property.
you get some help from the seller. I mean,
Right.
The sellers are helping. That is the other thing. If you're
Well, you may need to
instructing
use some of your equity to help if you're going to sell your property.
if you're going to sell your property
need to help the
today,
buyer.
you need to be open to a good conversation of how to sell your property today. It isn't just line up 50 people and take 5 offers and stuff like that. It's basically you're participating a lot more. You're either having a little offering assistance in the buy down or some of the in the closing, or you're changing maybe some price structure. But of course, that person is thinking the more I take a cut, the more I can't afford on the other side.
That's the big issue right there,
So
right?
it's a double-ended sword. No matter how you remember, a seller becomes a buyer and a buyer becomes a seller. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Okay.
I get what you're saying there.
Right.
So let's take a look at some property areas, and I use these all the time. So we're going to kind of be consistent. So if you're a regular listener of Ron Siegel Radio, you've heard me talk about some of these different locations, some of these different numbers in the past.
What do you got?
And
Hills?
yeah, I use 92807.
Yeah.
Well, for some reason, my computer doesn't want to.
What's good?
The
The beauty of the Anaheim Hills I like is that it's got a good mix of product, so you can get a good snapshot of in a short.
So the inventory is up
area.
this week.
Pardon?
Inventory is up this week.
Okay, what's it at?
23.
23.
It was at 22.
Yeah.
So so the media is going to say there's 5% more properties available for sale.
5% more properties
Right.
available.
That's it.
I hate percentages really with it. It's better off when you can hear something in a number. It went up by 1.
Yeah, it went up by 1.
And it might have been last month that something that was in escrow fell out.
There you go. Are you seeing that more?
Yes, to a degree. I've surprisingly enough, I have seen some escrows fall out. Now, catch this part. On a bit of a nosy investigation on some of them, and this is, of course, in my neighborhood, so I can ask questions a little bit easier. They were cash buyers. So if the cash buyer fell out, there's nothing wrong with the house. What's it tell you? The cash buyer is looking till he decides he's found exactly what he wants. So he's tying something up. He knows he's got 17 days minimum contingency for dropping it for any reason. And then he's still looking, and it gets something else comes on the market a little better, a little different.
Why 17 days?
In the CAR,
California Association of
Realtors, and in the purchase form, you have a 17-day contingency period.
Oh,
you
okay.
can negotiate it to be more. You can put a loan contingency, a physical contingency. Let's say you need some more time. You want some advanced studies on the fireplace or something. I'm making it up, but you can renegotiate that.
I want to study my fireplace.
Well, you know what I mean.
I want to turn it on and make sure the smoke goes out, not into the house.
Make sure that because you might have bought one with a wood burning fireplace. That's a rarity today. I think I don't
think we're allowed those anymore. Well, we can't have a wood burn wood. Wait, you can't burn wood and you can't burn gas. So what are we gonna have to get rid of fireplaces?
You're gonna have to get rid of
New York. They have to get rid of stoves.
You get electric fireplace.
Oh, an electric fireplace.
Yeah, you get an electric fireplace with a digital.
Okay.
You've seen them at Costco with a digital. the digital screen.
Continue our conversation. Jim Norton is in the house. We're chatting about real estate. And Jim's been around since the beginning of time, so we like to talk to him about real estate. He might even coach us a little bit.
Yeah, right. You know, if you want to come to coach, is I've been looking at the to see how close it's become, or is it a better deal to build your own home? Imagine building
Wow.
your own home. I mean, think about it. Building your own home has it's gone down in terms of people, interested in the idea. Usually, it used to be a pretty stable market in that, but now it's getting to the point where you know what, you could save a couple of $100 building your own home.
Really?
Oh yeah, because remember, you're not paying the 20% margin. If a builder's getting 20% on a home, you're not paying that margin. You're keeping
Yeah,
it.
but I don't know how to use a screwdriver, so what am I going to do?
Well, you're not going to build a home yourself. This is not
It's like that IKEA
this
commercial
is
where the
not
table falls
Abraham
over.
this is not the Abraham Lincoln conversation in the log cabin.
Have you watched that commercial where the table falls over? They've got all. Oh, it's Bounty. It's not a IKEA. It's a Bounty.
Yeah. No,
I could build a table that comes from IKEA, and I could manage to mess it up without a problem.
No, actually, they probably have. I would think you probably have more trouble.
But I thought the
finding
fees and the permits and all that is.
You're still paying that on a new home. So if public home builder A goes and builds a home here in Orange County, he's
Got to
paying
find the property.
He's got to find the property. He's got to hold the property. He's got to get it entitled. He's got to go through all the hoops and jump through all the red tape. And you're gonna do the same thing. It's just that it's going to be for a one, and that usually you're buying a residential lot. You're not having to rezone or anything of that nature. And so it's not a bad idea, depending on what your position is, because you do have to have some place to live. Let's say you decide to tear your home down.
We talk about that. We have two different options that we talk about when we talk about some sort of homes. We got like D.R. Horton or Coleman.
In terms of
getting something over your head.
Yeah.
D.R. Horton's a little bit more sturdy. Coleman, you have a problem in a strong wind. The Coleman kind of blows away.
There is a Coleman home, so watch out.
Oh, is there really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Up north, I don't know. They might not be around, but yes, good.
You can see when the light went on for Jim right there.
Yeah, but I mean, they've passed quite a bit of laws. Everybody talks about ADUs and everything, and granny quarters and everything, but nobody talks about much about building their own house, building, and it's going to take.
I'm not going to cause trouble here, but my granny's at Forest Lawn right now, so I don't want to build a granny quarter.
Well, let's just call it. Let's call it an ADU if you want to get technical.
Additional dwelling unit.
Additional dwelling unit.
Right. So if you got they don't allow ADUs in Irvine. There's not enough property around the houses.
Yeah, there's not enough room.
Just throw that out there.
There's not I think SB 9 probably doesn't work in terms of a lot split in Irvine.
Yeah, there's a little challenge right there.
Yeah, but in some of the.
But let's talk about this, Jim, though, because so would you still think with mortgage rates coming down, a recession on the horizon, do you think that building is going to be a better solution?
Well, as you know, it's always easier and more convenient, quicker to buy an existing property than it is and do a rehab on it than it is to build from scratch. But at the same time, if you're in some position where you can build, I mean, you got to remember, you have to have a place to live while the house is being built. So if you're going to
so the idea of building, and again, I'm not a builder, you know this better than I do. You have to really have some wherewithal to build your own property, because you have the existing property wherever you're living right now. You're paying something for that.
You're gonna be in a
and then
dual
you've got
situation.
and then you've got the land, which is generally there's not a huge amount of financing available for raw land, and you've got and not a lot of huge financing available for the permits. So you've got to come out of pocket with a decent amount of money to get started. It seems to me.
I think again, like I said, I'm going into this kind of looking at the balance at the overall cost per foot type of situation. But realistically, you should be able to build with if you have the down payment to buy a house, you should be able to have enough money to get your.
So here's the issue with that one. Is
remember your permits, and you have to acquire the land, but your permits and everything won't be due until building till you have your building permit. Then you pay your permits, and at that point you're building, so you're on your construction loan, and so you can roll your permits into the construction loan.
So think
you're
about.
right.
I want
You're
to
right.
hang on one second. I want to throw this out there because it's something that you need to be thinking about. So when you're listening to Ron Siegel Radio, and we bring on somebody like Jim Norton, he's done this building before, and what he's looking at, or what he's sharing, I don't know what he's looking at, but what he's sharing right now is the perspective of what is a builder looking at in light of the current economy, in light of the current mortgage rates, in light of what's going on in the real estate environment right now. So when you hear somebody talking about that, you may want to take heed, because it might be in your best interest to look at the same exact things that Jim Norton's talking about as far as when it comes to the economy and whatnot, because he's got the builder in his background. So just throwing that out there. Now, if you are in distress, if you got a distress situation, we've got solutions for that also. The question is are you going to pick up the phone? Because the economy is going to get tougher. I don't want to be the bearer of bad news. As a whole, the economy will get tougher, but real estate values generally appreciate as mortgage values come down. And what's going to be the catalyst of that is a recession. So think about those things. Don't get caught up in the fact that, the sky is falling. There's nothing I can do. Call us. There are things that you can do in those lights.
There's a lot of things. Again, that's, as we just said, that's just one of them. There are so many different ways. You got loan participation programs, VA. If you're a VA, anything we do with a veteran, the VA is a classic gold standard loan. And then I think even Geneva has don't they have a first-time home buyer?
Absolutely. Down payment assistance program.
There are so many down payment assistance.
Absolutely.
Now I know some of them have termed out, or they've filled up. You got to get in pretty quick, but there's a lot of ways to get a home today. And
if you want it, and if you pick up the phone,
they're
not coming to you.
No question. No, people sit there and they say, well, I can't afford the down payment. It's like, well, what do you have? I mean, what are you looking for? What do you want?
But it's
a lot better than paying for what? The median rent, $5,000?
$5,250.
I would like to put that into I mean, that's obviously skewed because you got some big houses being rent, but I'd like to see what the average single family in a Anaheim as a whole.
I don't have for the whole. I've got Anaheim Hills is $4,350.
It came down a little bit.
Yeah.
Could you do it? You probably do a little bit better in here, but the problem isn't so much the amount of rent; it's the availability of something to rent. You go into the MLS and you look for properties, rental properties.
Look at this, Jim.
It's a very low number.
I just put this in here, and this one surprises me.
Okay.
So I'm looking at Anaheim 92804. That's around the Disneyland area.
Okay.
$3,500 is median rent.
Okay. Yeah.
A lot of money.
Yeah.
You can buy houses for that.
Yeah.
They're even at the interest rates that we're at now.
Does it have a number of available units? Just out of
doesn't show the available units.
When I was glancing at somebody asked me about it. I was looking at they were doing some evaluation on existing rental property, and I looked at what was for rent to see what the comps were, and there was not a lot of product available. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's that's the whole thing right now. There's not a lot available, and if you're thinking about buying, you need to take action. And again, if you've got issues, if you've got some distress, call us. We can try and help and solve that. There's even some creative financing options out there again. So be on the lookout, and just keep us in mind. We don't want to see people that are struggling like we did see in 2009, 10, 11. Banks don't want that either. So we're hearing more and more. So far,
we haven't gotten to that point in the economy.
Right.
I mean, that was a rapid collapse.
Right.
I mean that.
And we are, but there's still 1,000 homes in Orange County and 1,000 in Riverside and 1,000 San Bernardino that have distressed issues.
Yeah.
So I've heard recently, again, the banks are not looking to foreclose; they're looking to solve the problem.
Right.
So make those calls, and again, we're looking at as a recession comes up, there's going to be a lot of opportunity in real estate. There's always a lot of opportunity in real estate.
There's always a lot of opportunity in real estate. It just depends on how you look at it. But the point is, you have to look. You've got to get some conversation going, and you got to figure out what you can do. I mean,
and I'm going to push back on one comment that you made earlier, Jim, is about the idea if you've got a house that's got equity in it, don't sell it, right?
No,
Take your equity out. We were talking earlier about selling to buy the next one. Well, take some equity out
But-
and buy the next one.
that is actually the greatest way to build wealth. I mean, that is the RP 100's equity builder program. And the problem is it's very scary. But then when you start talking about something, you find out that it's also very simple.
Right.
It just takes discipline and it takes a little bit of work.
Guidance.
But it's not one of these Instagram where, oh, I work 4 hours a week and I make $100,000 a week.
No,
it's not that kind of scam. It's a wealth builder over time. You're taking advantage. I mean, what other industry? What stock can you buy where you can put 10% down on the stock, maybe 20% down on the stock, and finance the balance and reap all the appreciation
and have a history.
And
right, because we've got a lot of history when we look at real estate. Every county, every city, we've got the data on it.
Right.
What the appreciation's been over the last 40, 50, 60 years.
So it's real hard to find the same way that you can leverage your
100%.
investment. But stock market, you can't leverage anything. You have to pay 100% cash. You got to buy the stock.
For the most part, yeah.
For the most part, and unless you're doing shorts and everything. But now that's that makes real estate look simple.
Right.
The complications.
A lot of work with that.
Of derivatives and everything else.
We don't want to get into that part, but
we're not too far off to the left again.
That's a whole new subject.